Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the place that I work. In the previous occasions when you've been here to see the 100 and 200 subscribers celebration special videos, this place was called Shop Direct. However, now we have completely rebranded and the company is called The Very Group. So, welcome to The Very Group. We're back again here together to celebrate the next milestone of 300 subscribers. That's incredible, that's amazing. Thank you all so much, and thank you for your continued support for the channel and all of the things that I do on it. As usual, in order to celebrate this milestone, I want to introduce you to another one of the excellent people that work here. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I give to you interview with a front-end developer. Hi folks, I'm Ben and welcome back to the channel. This is another celebration video to thank you all for getting me to the next YouTube milestone of 300 subscribers. Yeah! Woo! I want to introduce you now to a brilliant colleague, a great friend, and genuinely a really nice guy, Mr. Joe Furness.
Hi folks.
Hi Joe, how are you doing?
How's it going?
I'm very good, thank you for being on the show.
No worries, my pleasure.
So who are you and what do you do?
I'm Joe Furness. I'm a front-end developer at The Very Group. I help build the UI of the website with HTML, CSS and JavaScript.
Cool, okay. So you said front-end developer. I'm always thinking web developer. What's the difference between a front-end developer and a web developer?
So the front-end developer mainly looks after purely the presentation layer of the website. So the UI, the form fields, the actual website that the customers see.
What they interact with,
exactly.
the touchy bit. Yeah. Okay. And then
whereas
the web developer.
A web developer or a back-end developer, back-end developer does purely the server-side stuff. So, you know, accessing databases, generating. Oh God, what do they generate?
All sorts. Like databases, SQL, microservices,
yeah,
all that good stuff, right?
All of that stuff, yeah. And then a web developer is more a broad term. It could include front-end development, back-end development, mixture of both or anywhere in between. Okay, so the right words to use in this regard is front-end developer.
Yeah. Got you. So how did you actually get into front-end development or like web development? How did you get into that?
I mean, I actually started learning about web development in general when I was a teenager. I think back in the day it was tradition, but you just used the view source functionality in Internet Explorer or...
Oh right, so that's the right-click view source thing, okay.
Yeah, so when I was a teenager I was just inquisitive and I used to look at the source of websites and see how they worked and what was going on. Cool. So that's how I initially got into it. I taught myself how to do front-end web development just by doing that, looking at websites and seeing how they built. That's cool. So the aim of it was to actually like understand so that you could create your own website. It was the aim to sort of go in and like mess with things and there's just
a lot of people
investigate. I used to quite often see that you'd get errors on websites. It'd be a little yellow icon in the bottom of the Internet Explorer browser. You used to click on it and it'd take you into the source code as well, and you'd be like, well, why is this error happening? So yeah, I just used to investigate.
That's really cool. Cool. Yeah. So it was like an exploration mindset that's
exactly, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I mean, when I was a child, I used to always take things apart.
Oh yeah.
Like I loved just destroying my toys. I just
really?
took everything to bits and wanted to put them back together. I wanted to know how they worked.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah,
okay, so getting into it, finding how the nuts and bolts and all the cogs work together. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
What else did you take apart then out of interest?
Just all sorts. I mean, mostly it was stuff I couldn't put back together again. So I just broke stuff. But yeah, that was...
That's wicked. Do you still have that sort of take apart, get into it mindset now?
Yeah, I really do. I like to know how things work.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's something I've always been interested in. It's like, for example, I did a degree in physics, and that was because I wanted to know how...
Like life works.
How everything worked.
That's
yeah. Yeah, I've always been inquisitive.
Can I ask what happened? How come you didn't go down the physics route?
I think 3 years at university studying it was enough for me. I think I knew enough about how stuff worked in that sense.
How did you then transition back into like tech then? How did that happen?
Oh, well, I'd actually worked as a web developer before university. I did a year in industry and I did part intranet web development and part data analysis.
So what's intranet?
Intranet, so that's an internet that's only accessible within an organisation's network.
Okay, cool. Right.
So I started working on that when I was 18.
Really? Cool. How long were you at that place for then?
Just 1 year.
Okay, right. Cool.
Yeah.
What was it, if you don't mind me asking, the place?
It was the Defence Science and Technology Laboratory. It was an agency of the Ministry of Defence.
Ooh, damn.
Yeah,
Very cool.
It's quite interesting stuff.
Nice. That's cool. So you were a web developer there then, yeah? Sorry.
Yeah, so I was a web developer there, and then actually while I was at university I did an internship in affiliate marketing, so more of the e-commerce side of the web. So that was kind of in a related industry, but a bit of a different bit of a different take on it. So then after you did that, was it quite a simple transition just to get back into like front-end development, or did it take some time? It took a bit of time actually. After university I did temp jobs for a little while. Did you? Yeah. Okay. Just because finished university and needed to earn some money straight away. Absolutely. I didn't particularly want to move back into my parents' house, so I had to take whatever job I could find quickly. But then after a few months of that, I found a job doing, again, web development, both back and front end, and kind of data analysis, a kind of dual role. And then was it Shop Direct / the Very Group after that, or? Nope, one more stop. Oh yeah? Okay. One more stop in between, and this is when I became more of a pure web developer. This was for a design agency in the centre of Liverpool, Liquid. Liquid, okay, cool, right. Yeah, so they worked with all sorts of different clients, from household brands like Warburton's and Onitsuka Tiger and Bravissimo. Okay, to make websites for those brands to build stuff, websites, email marketing campaigns, Facebook promotions. Cool, okay. Wicked. Yeah, so it was really varied. It really depended on what contracts they'd got in, on what I'd build. I was working with .NET for building back-end CMS systems for people, and then JavaScript and HTML to build the front ends. Is there any advice that you'd give in general to somebody that's thinking of becoming a front-end developer? Like, how would they go about getting a front-end developer job? I mean, I think the first thing is try and learn the languages that you need. Try and learn HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Okay, so the three core ones. Yeah, you can find all sorts of good tutorials online about it, but just try and build a simple site. It's just a personal blog or something dead straightforward that can just get your feet dipped in the water with it. It's you can read all the tutorials you like, but just try and build something. Yeah, okay. Something simple. I think that's really good advice, actually, just getting hands-on, because then you realise what works, what doesn't work, what you need to learn more about, and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah, exactly. Cool. Okay, and then once they've learned how to make a website? I would say maybe start offering to make websites for other people. Just keep on building stuff. Like, the more that you build stuff, the more you'll find the right way of doing things, and you get more and more experience. I think it's important to have a good basic understanding before you start trying to apply for any jobs. So that would be my suggestion. No, I think that's really good advice, actually. Yeah. You said about there's lots of things online, lots of resources to learn from. Have you got any maybe off the top of your head, some really good places like YouTube people to follow, or blogs online or posts? So I think one of the best ones. There's a few really good ones. I really enjoy the CSS-tricks website. Oh yes, that's a good one. Yeah, it's been going for years, and it's pretty exhaustive on how to do things properly in the front end world. So that's well worth a look. Another one's Smashing Magazine. Smashing Magazine. Yeah, and that's it's just got lots of resources for how to build front ends effectively. Cool. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the one that I actually used when I was initially learning all of this was HTML Goodies. It's been around since I think it's been around since 1996, and it's I think it's still got good information on it now, but it's ancient. Right? Is it up to date information though, or is it sort of? I don't think any of it's wrong. Okay. But yeah. Right. Cool. Yeah. So have a look at that. It looks old. But yeah. Amazing. We'll put all the links in the description as well down below to all the things that Joe was just talking about. Have you heard of there's W3 schools as well? What's your take? Did you like that, or? I think I'm with the rest of the internet in not liking W3 schools. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't find it very good. Right. As in very good at all. The information, or? Go to MDN if you want a compendium of information that's accurate, up to date for web development, front-end web development, especially MDN. Okay, MDN.com or something, or? Yeah. Okay, cool. Mozilla Developer Network. It's
Oh, I see. Okay, right. Okay.
It's amazing. It's an amazing resource. So yeah, definitely have a look at that.
Is it? I don't know if you watch much YouTube. Do you watch any like good front end dev YouTubers?
So there's a few actually. There's Wes Bos is really good for React, just in general. Dodds, really good for testing.
Okay.
Testing front-end code.
Cool.
And just React in general.
Actually, you bring me nicely onto React, right? Because you said React a couple of times there. What is React?
So React is really a front-end framework for building components and UI for the web.
Okay.
So it makes doing a lot of the front-end stuff kind of more reusable.
Okay.
I think historically you find yourself creating bespoke solutions for each website or each part of a website that you're working on. With React, you can easily build up a library of components that you can just import into pages and build up a UI really quickly and in a unified manner. So you can just reuse much more of your code.
I see. So you define somewhere, this is my green button, this is how I want green buttons to look and feel, and then you just over somewhere else, you're like, give me a green button.
Yep.
Okay.
And that can be within your application, or it could be within entirely other separate applications. You can publish your own components to NPM or something like that. You know, you can.
Right.
Yeah.
So does React hook into NPM so you can get other people's components as well? You can be like, oh, I like his green button. All right, amazing.
Yeah. For instance, if you're building out a really complicated UI component, you might be talking about a lot of effort to get something working. You could just find a good one online. For instance, I think we use one called Slick Slider. In the front end, it's a carousel.
Okay.
And it's got so much functionality in it. We could, by all means, build our own, but there's a kind of balance between effort and return on investment on that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
And so that's an example where you might be tempted to just pull in that component from NPM.
So React then, right? It's something to help you build front end, like the actual what the person sees.
Yeah.
And there's React and there's React Native and there's some other React. What's all the difference between those?
So standard ReactJS is for the web. React Native is for mobile phone applications. Right. So it allows the developers to hook into a lot of the native APIs that are available on devices. Whereas normal React allows you to hook into a lot of the native APIs available in the web browser. Okay. But yeah, I think they're both very similar to I've not written any React Native. I've looked at it a little bit, but fundamentally it's using JavaScript and React to build out native app experiences. Okay,
that makes sense, yeah. And then I'm just throwing words at you now and see I'm trying to get you, this is really interesting information. Angular, right? There's Angular. I used to work with that a long time ago. Is that similar to React? Is that?
It is. Yeah, I think it probably started out with broadly the same aims of, trying to make things reusable, trying to make things more declarative rather than imperative, so that you give it some data and it does this thing.
Okay, so what are maybe one or two things that you'd warn people about before getting into the front end dev world? What would you go hey, stop, think about this before you make that decision?
Well, I think so. One thing is front end web development is changing constantly. You can never be 100% up to date with front end web development. The browsers are always releasing new functionality. There's new specifications of JavaScript released each year.
Each year, is it?
Yeah, so you never finish learning. You can't complete learning front-end web development. So yeah, be prepared to learn forevermore if you take up front-end web development. Fair enough. Which is both a pro and a con. But
sure.
You can't rest on your laurels. You've got to keep on learning new things. Absolutely. Otherwise you're just going to get left behind.
Yeah, I think that's quite similar across the tech industry as a whole, right? You can't ever stop learning because things are changing so rapidly.
Yeah, you can't just go, this is done. Yeah, it's never done.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and the other one is that it can be quite a frustrating role at points. You can be working on a task that you think you know exactly how to do at the start, and then there'll be one little thing that just trips you up, and you can spend a long time trying to get over some really silly little problems. And I think that's probably similar in tech in general. You could start out with something, you think you've got a plan of how to attack it and exactly how you're going to solve the problem, and then there'll be some little thing that just throws a spanner in the works, and you spend an inordinate amount of time trying to overcome.
Big time. That's like my everyday. That.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've got to be quite patient. You've just got to like not get frustrated by it. You've got to kind of go, well, I'll try this, and then I'll try this, and I'll try this. And, you know, you have to have an arsenal of different approaches that you can take to try and get around things.
For the people out there that are interested, like myself, what is your coding setup? What do you see when you hit your computer? Like what programs and applications are you using?
I mean, so I pretty much all the time just use VS Code and Firefox and Chrome for debugging in the browser. But yeah, I VS Code with a few extensions installed to make things a little bit nicer.
Okay.
I think the key thing with the front end setup is to have a really good Webpack and Babel config. So Babel allows you to use new features in JavaScript. I think we're on ES10 now. A lot of browsers only support ES5 or ES6 for some features, but you can use all of the new features and Babel will transpile it back into a version of JavaScript that's compatible with the browsers that you need to support.
Wow, okay, cool.
That's awesome. That's really cool. It just allows you to write much cleaner code with the modern functionality. So yeah, get a good Babel config. There's some pretty simple ones that you can just find. The preset env config will do most of what you need for you. And then Webpack. So Webpack is a bundler and a minifier, and it can do all sorts of different things.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a bit of a mystery to me. But again, if you've got a good setup there, then you can do things like auto prefixing your CSS, so that if you need to do browser-specific prefixes for any CSS properties, it will automatically do them.
Cool. Like the transform thing, because sometimes you have to put like Mozilla in front of it and all that.
Exactly.
Right, I see.
Sometimes it will also do source maps. So if you've got 5 or 6 JavaScript files or CSS files that are combined into one in your build script, it will automatically in the browser provide a map of where a particular line of code has come from, so that you can debug it much more easily in the browser.
Okay.
That kind of thing makes it a lot easier. And also hot reloading.
Hot reloading?
Yeah, gone are the days of having to go back to the browser each time you make a change, press refresh, wait for the page to load.
Okay.
Now when you click save, it will automatically refresh the page for you. So by the time you switch browser windows, yeah, you're there.
What's the purpose of, like, what's the need for Webpack? Is it just to make things easier, or is there an actual, like, you need Webpack to upload it to ABC or something like that?
It's really the bundling, I think, is the reason. You know, at the moment you could end up with dozens of files feeding into an application, and it makes it easier to get just one file that you send to the browser rather than multiple. It allows you to do things like import a module from another library.
Ooh, okay.
So it runs all of that as well.
Right, okay.
So at the top of your file, you can do import React from React,
right.
And then you can forget about it. Webpack will go off during the build script and take all of the code from the React library that it needs and put it into your bundle at the end.
How does it know where to get it from? Like, is it attached to NPM, is it then? Or? Exactly.
So in your application, you'll have a package JSON that will list your dependencies.
Yeah.
And then in your actual application files, so in your app.js or container JSX or whatever you've called your application, you can import, and then it will know to go and, during the build process, look in your node modules folder, pull that code into the main bundle.
Right,
so
okay. Oh, so then you don't need a huge node modules folder in your bundle thing, you just need the ones that are in... Well,
exactly. So then it just combines all the files that are used in your application into one, or many if you want separation, if you want to chunk the application up into smaller bytes. Then,
okay,
it just does all of that for you.
Nice.
Which would be an absolute nightmare if you're going to do it manually.
Sounds really useful, actually.
Yeah.
You said about you've got a couple of decent extensions then to VS Code. Do you know off the top of your head what they are, like the ones you'd call out?
So the one that I use a lot is ESLint.
Okay.
So within our applications, we've got an ESLint file which just says format the JavaScript in this way. and it enforces a load of rules that kind of make your JavaScript consistent, so that it's more easily readable by yourself and other people should they need to look at it.
That's lint checks, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
great.
code quality kind of stuff.
Cool. Right.
But yeah, it's got a setting on that it's auto fix on save, and that will just, you don't need to worry about formatting. You just type it however you want, click save, and then it magically appears in a nice format.
So if I hadn't tabbed enough and I hit, or I had over tabbed or something, I hit save, it'll just be like, right. Oh wow, that's really cool.
If it can, if you've written it so badly that the extension doesn't know what's going on, then sometimes it doesn't work. But in general, you just have to forget about formatting. It doesn't matter about tabbing or any of it. Okay, so testing, automation testing, and all that kind of stuff is huge in the world at the moment. How do you automation test or unit test? So we use a tool called Jest. It's a test runner, and a library called React testing library for testing React components specifically. They allow you to get really pretty decent test coverage on your components. Okay, and what, you just give it the source directory and say run in there and it finds all the files for you, or? Exactly, yeah. You can have a config and basically anything with .test in the file name, it will pick up and then run that file, which is obviously pointing to the actual code file. And then the other side of this coin is, how do you test for all of the different browsers? Well, yes. Is Internet Explorer still a thing? Or? Sadly, yes. Yeah, sadly it is. We do still need to support IE 11. I think we're no longer actively supporting IE 10, so that's good news. Okay. So we use a tool called Cypress. Cypress? Yeah, Cypress, and what's the other one? WebDriver.io. Okay. And that's hooked up to Browser Stack, which is an online tool that allows you to run your code on different devices and browsers. That's cool. So what, you upload your code to Browser Stack and then it just pipes it off to the different things and gives you your results back? Yeah, it will start up a virtual instance of that device and run all your tests on that actual devices. Obviously that takes quite a long time, so you'd only really do core functionality. You wouldn't want to do your unit testing on devices because you're going to end up spinning up a couple of dozen devices. It's going to take a long time and it's going to cost quite a lot of money. Right. So I think if you can get the unit test coverage lower down and then probably more core journey tests running across the browsers to make sure that nothing at the top level is broken. Sure, okay. That's cool. That's really interesting. Didn't know all that world existed, to be honest. Yeah, it's quite cool. I think historically you'd have to get a device farm. Yeah. And which, again, that's all good, but it costs a lot of money to maintain that, whereas we can now subscribe to this service. We can specify the devices that we want to test on in a configuration file. It'll just do it all automatically. So a couple of times you've said about Node or Node.js. What is that? So Node is a runtime environment for JavaScript. Historically, JavaScript was only run in the browser. I think there was an aborted attempt to get it running on the server side in the mid-90s, but it just didn't really kick off properly. Node is an attempt to sort that out, so that you could run JavaScript as the backend for a server. Yeah, it's interesting because JavaScript has a lot of benefits over a lot of other server platforms, and that it can be non-blocking. It works on an event loop, so that instead of threads being occupied by a particular process, it's asynchronous, so it can start a process and then drop it, wait for an event to be published, and then pick it back up again. So it allows a lot of concurrent processes to be happening, which is, I think, historically something web servers have struggled with. Okay, cool. So is that like akin to, like the PHP and ASP and all that kind of stuff? It's just another way to backend? Exactly, yeah. Okay. But then it quickly became a lot more than that. So yeah, people started publishing modules that could run on Node. So this NPM, so Node module repository, Node package manager, that's what it's called. Okay, cool. And people just published these modules to there, and that were capable of doing all sorts of things, and that weren't necessarily things you'd run on the server. It started to become really useful in terms of front-end web development. There'd be things like Grunt or Gulp, which are front-end task runners. So they would do all the stuff that I've got Webpack running now. Grunt and Gulp would run all of those for you locally, so you could have that kind of bundling, minification, auto prefixing, compilation of your code, all running locally. So they were really cool tools to use. You could also have them then running on your server side as part of your build process, and all that side of things. So yeah, it really became useful. You could just hook into the npm repository, pull down these packages, and get them running locally.
That's amazing. Is there any like big headline packages that you'd sort of be like, oh yeah, everyone needs to know about this package?
I mean, I guess it's still Webpack and Babel for me. They're incredible. They've just changed the way front-end development works. So yeah, those are my two.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. No, it sounds great. So it sounds, just to sort of clarify, it started out as this way for people to put JavaScript on a server, on a back-end, on a machine without having to be in a browser.
I think that was the original thinking behind it. Yeah.
Okay. And now it's even sort of come back to the browser. Like people that are writing the front-end bits are using Node's modules and components. Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still used. We still use it as a web server. So we use a package called Express, which is a HTTP server for running on Node.
Oh, okay. So what, you can write gets and posts and...
Yep.
Okay, right.
Yeah, you can have all your routing done within it.
Okay. Cool. So we've come to the end of the main questions now. As usual in these interview-style videos, I'm going to ask Joe a couple of either-or questions. Let's see what he thinks. I know you're a bit of a cheese guy. So brie or camembert?
Oh, I think if you're having it hot, camembert, but cold brie.
Oh wow! Okay, cool.
There's always the right cheese for the situation.
Nice. What is your favourite cheese out of interest?
Old Amsterdam aged Gouda.
Oh my goodness!
It's
okay,
amazing.
Cool. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, I want some cheese now.
Yeah, me too.
iOS or Android?
Android.
Mac or Windows?
Oh, Mac. Yeah.
Coke or Pepsi?
Definitely Coke.
Grunt or Gulp?
Oh, I mean, I've used Grunt more. I think Gulp's probably better, but I've binned them both off for Webpack.
And now time for sort of one big, more fun question. Let's get into it. If you could time travel to any when in time, when would it be?
Ooh, that is a tough one.
There you go.
That is a tough one. I think I'd go into ancient Greece.
Oh, why?
Yeah, I just think it seemed like a really interesting culture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I'd like to hang out in Athens in about 2000 BC.
Nice, fair enough. You just imagine you in a toga just mincing around the streets.
Yeah. Into the fashion, love the sandals. It's
Cool. Yeah. So that's it. Thank you very much for being on the show. I really appreciate it, and it's been a lot of fun. Thank you all very much for watching. And of course, if you enjoy what I do on this channel, then please make sure you hit that subscribe button. In fact, we'll put a little floaty one here. It's not even clickable, but it's floaty just because it's going to give me a lot of effort to edit this. But there you go. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and hit that bell icon to be notified when more interviews come out. And of course, we're doing an interview every 100 subscriber milestone, so there's a little bit of bribery. It's always works. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.
See you.
So I'm gonna go. There we go. Cool.
All right. Mic check, Joe. Bah! Got it. So.
Let's go. Front end. Right, I'm doing it this time. This is the best part of the videos. Yeah! Get in!
No.
Good job.
Cool.